Picture this. You're doing your morning check, moving down the aisle, and you pass a horse standing completely still at the back of the stall. Head level, neck stretched out flat, nearly parallel with its back. Eyes wide open, not blinking, staring at nothing. Ears parked backward, not pinned in anger, just sitting there, aimed toward the tail. You think, good, he's quiet today, and you keep walking. That is the moment this video is about. Researchers studying equine behavior have documented a specific, describable posture that shows up in horses experiencing something that looks a lot like depression. And the reason almost nobody catches it is that it looks exactly like a calm, well-managed horse. That is the reframe that makes everything in this video land differently than anything you've probably read on this topic before. Depression in a horse doesn't look like sadness. It looks like your easiest horse. I've gone deep into the peer-reviewed research on this, the studies, the behavioral analyses, the physiological findings. And what I found is genuinely unsettling if you spend time around horses. So here's what we're going to cover: the specific posture and how to read it, the number that tells you this is not rare, the counterintuitive reaction pattern that gets misread as a training problem, the hormone finding that will make you rethink what normal blood work means, the sugar test, what the easy horse is actually telling you, and the 3 things that can start to turn it around. Stay until the end, because the last piece, the one about what the well-behaved horse may have actually learned, is the one that tends to hit owners the hardest. Let's start with the number, because it reframes everything else. Researchers observed the spontaneous behavior of 59 working horses in their home environment, focusing specifically on immobility bouts and this unusual, unresponsive posture. And here's what they found. 24% of those horses displayed the withdrawn posture, characterized by gaze, head, and ear fixity, a profile that the researchers described as suggesting a spontaneous expression of behavioral despair. 1 in 4. That's not a rare clinical edge case. That's potentially a quarter of the horses in a normal working barn, and most of their owners had no idea. So what does it actually look like? Because the description matters here. This is something you can check for yourself right now, in your own barn. Researchers found that the withdrawn state is characterized by a stationary, atypical, flat-necked posture, wide open, unblinking eyes with an apparently fixed gaze, and backwards pointing ears. The neck detail is important. The neck stretches out horizontally in alignment with the back, nearly level, and the ears aren't pinned flat like an angry horse. They're just parked there, still pointing toward the tail. This also differs from the posture of a resting horse, who relaxes his muscles, often rests one hind leg, rotates ears laterally, and allows his eyelids and lips to droop, with his neck sloping lower and rounder. The withdrawn posture is rigid where the resting posture is soft. Once you know the difference, you start seeing it. Now here's the part that genuinely surprised me, and it's the thing that gets misread more than anything else. You'd assume a checked-out, disengaged horse is a calm horse. Low reactivity, low stress, easy to be around. The research found the opposite. Withdrawn horses appeared more indifferent to environmental stimuli in their home environment, but reacted more emotionally in more challenging situations. So day to day, they seem switched off, but hit them with something unexpected, a sudden noise, a novel object, an unfamiliar situation, and they react more strongly than a normal horse. The researchers indicated that these horses had undergone a cognitive shift. They were so physically or psychologically stressed that they had tuned out their surroundings. The blank face is not peace, it's a coping mechanism, and underneath it, the horse is more on edge, not less. In one study, withdrawn horses were significantly less likely to pay attention to unusual noises, with only around half of them reacting, pricking their ears, lifting their head, compared to 90% of the normal horse group. Owners see that low response behavior and read it as steady, bomb-proof, easy. Trainers sometimes read it as a training problem. This horse doesn't pay attention. Both interpretations miss what's actually happening. Keep that in mind as we go, because we're going to come back to what that disengagement can mean in a training context, and it's the most uncomfortable part of this whole conversation. Now let's talk about cortisol, because this is where the research gets genuinely counterintuitive. Most people assume that a stressed, suffering animal would have high cortisol. The stress hormone is elevated. You see it in the blood work. You catch it. The withdrawn horses in the study actually exhibited lower plasma cortisol levels. Lower, not higher. Researchers noted that these withdrawn horses showed an abnormally low level of cortisol, describing it as a physiological depression, alongside the behavioral signs. The working theory is that chronic, inescapable stress can eventually flatten the stress hormone system rather than spike it. The same blunted cortisol pattern that researchers have observed in some forms of human depression. So if your vet runs blood work and cortisol comes back normal or low, that does not clear the horse. It's not a green light. This is exactly the kind of finding you'd want to bring to your vet's attention rather than interpret on your own, because the entanglement between chronic pain and this kind of withdrawal is real, and a vet needs to be part of that picture. Which brings us to the sugar test, and this one is almost elegant in how simple it is. Anhedonia, no longer feeling pleasure from experiences that used to be pleasurable, is a core symptom of depression in humans. Researchers wanted to know if they could measure something like that in horses. Like rodents, horses will normally choose water with sugar added over plain water and will choose sweetened foods over unsweetened, which suggests they're finding genuine pleasure in that taste. So the researchers used sugar blocks. They found that the horses who were withdrawn ate less sugar, and those who spent the most time in the withdrawn posture ate the least sugar of all. Think about what that means practically. The horse that used to mug you for a carrot, that got bright-eyed the second you rustled a treat bag, that practically knocked you over at feeding time, and now just stands there indifferent. Most owners interpret that as the horse finally settling down or not being food motivated. Some riding horses display withdrawn states of inactivity and low responsiveness that resemble the reduced engagement shown by certain depressed patients, and researchers specifically investigated this loss of pleasure as a key symptom to assess whether these animals were experiencing a depression-like state. A horse going flat about food it used to love is not being polite. That's a documented marker worth paying attention to. Now, the piece I said we'd come back to, the one about what the easy horse might actually be telling you. Researchers suspect that a horse's working conditions play a crucial role in these withdrawn states, and that negative experiences in training might induce a state of learned helplessness. Learned helplessness is what happens when an animal learns, through repeated experience, that its actions don't change its situation. It stops trying. In horses, researchers have observed this in the context of training methods that offer no escape. Prolonged round pen chasing with no release, flooding with a frightening stimulus until the horse shuts down, or forced hyperflexion where the horse has no option but to comply. The eerie behavioral tell is a horse that stays in a frightening or uncomfortable position even when the pressure is gone and escape is available. It's not bravery. It's a horse that has learned that resistance is futile. Here's the gut punch for a lot of owners. The horse that finally settled, that stopped calling out, stopped testing fences, stopped fidgeting, stopped being a handful. Sometimes that's not maturity. Sometimes it's a horse that tried everything and gave up. The quietest horse in the barn can be the one that needs the most attention. I want to be careful here because this point gets misread. The vast majority of calm, well-trained horses are exactly that, calm and well-trained. Good horsemanship produces genuinely content horses, and a horse that stands quietly in a stall is not automatically suffering. The distinction researchers are pointing to is the specific cluster, the flat neck posture, the fixed, unblinking stare, the backward still ears, the loss of interest in food and interaction, the blunted response to everyday stimuli combined with overreaction to sudden ones. That cluster together is what warrants a closer look. One quiet afternoon is not a diagnosis. And speaking of not diagnosing, if you notice unusual changes in your horse's behavior, posture, appetite, or energy levels, the important step is to consult a veterinary professional, because symptoms associated with depression are sometimes linked to underlying physical conditions. Back pain, gastric ulcers, dental problems, Hormonal issues like PPID, these are physical, treatable causes that can produce exactly this kind of behavioral withdrawal. The rule to take away from this video is simple. Withdrawal is a call your vet sign, not a diagnose it yourself sign. The reason that matters is that the cause is often physical and fixable. You want a vet involved before you conclude anything. If you've been nodding along to any of this and you want to go deeper on reading horse behavior and body language, the eye, the ear position, the posture, I have a video that covers that in a lot more detail. It's worth watching right after this one. And if this kind of research-backed horse welfare content is what you want more of, subscribing means you won't miss it when the next one drops. Drop a comment below too. Tell me whether you've ever had a horse that matched any of this. I read them, and those comments genuinely help surface what topics to cover next. Okay? So what do you actually do? The research points to 3 conditions most consistently linked to these withdrawn states, and the hopeful part is that they're not complicated. Researchers and equine welfare experts refer to them as the 3 Fs: friends, forage, and freedom. Friends means consistent social contact with other horses. Isolation is one of the strongest environmental predictors of withdrawal. Horses are herd animals, and the absence of social bonds is a genuine stressor, not a preference. Forage means near constant access to roughage, hay, pasture, something to graze. Because a horse's digestive system and psychological state are both built around continuous slow eating, not 2 meals a day with hours of nothing in between. And freedom means movement, the ability to walk, turn, interact, and not stand in a small box for 22 hours a day. Researchers suspect that working conditions play a crucial role in whether these states develop, and the 3 Fs are essentially the antidote to the conditions most likely to produce them. For many of the horses researchers observed, the withdrawn behaviors had persisted over many years. So this isn't something that resolves overnight. But the research also shows it can improve. Horses that were reevaluated after changes to their living conditions showed meaningful behavioral shifts. The withdrawn state is not necessarily permanent. Restore the 3 Fs, rule out pain with your vet, and many horses do re-engage. Here's what changed from the beginning of this video to right now. You started with a picture of a quiet horse standing in a stall, and you probably read that as fine. Now you know there's a specific documented posture, flat neck, fixed stare, ears parked backward and still, that researchers found in roughly 1 in 4 working horses, that correlates with lower cortisol, reduced interest in sweet food, and a hair-trigger stress response hiding behind a blank face. You know the easy horse is the one worth looking at twice, and you know the first call to make is to your vet, not to a training program. Go walk your barn tonight with fresh eyes. You might see something you've been walking past for months.